Hey guys, so here I am outside of SiNaCa Glassblowing Studios in Fort Worth, Texas. I was here a few days ago and I got to create my own magnificent little glass pumpkin. And here it is. It's an old, renovated gas station from years gone by. And it's a beautiful little, hot spot of creative activity, a very sort of physical form of creativity that I just have fallen in love with. And I came back out here today to have a chat with Tatara. She's the Education and Outreach Director for SiNaCa. And we're gonna have a chat about creativity and how it manifests here in the creative process and the impact that it can have on people, on humans. And what is the purpose of creativity? So awesome. Let's go into SiNaCa Studios and take a look around. Okay everybody, I am here at SiNaCa Studios in Fort Worth, Texas with Tatara. She is the Education and Outreach Director here at this magnificent glassblowing studio. And we thought this is the perfect place to talk a little bit more about creativity and how it manifests out in the world.
Sure.
So this is a very creative endeavor that you've been doing for many years, day in and day out, to the point where maybe it doesn't even feel like creativity to you at sometimes. It feels like work. But you have a unique lens of someone who kind of lives and breathes in this environment where you're outputting creative items, right? Both in terms of process and actual products. So can we just start there? To you, what is creativity in this context?
I think it's a very complicated question, but to me, creativity is any thought that goes against the grain, any question that challenges a preconceived notion, any excitement that generates this act of motion, whether it's forward, backwards, right, or left. And creativity, to me, and innovation go hand in hand in the sense that it starts with that thought, generates that thought of, what is this thing? What can I do with it, if at all anything? And then from there it becomes innovation. What are its possibilities? What are its limitations? Are there any? Is it endless? And to me, creativity is not just about a specific art form. Creativity is something deeply rooted in every human being, no matter what profession they're in. If you really start to think about it, medicine is not made because somebody just decided to go and pull this plant. There was creative thought and thinking that we could derive something from a plant that could then heal us. When I bring kids in, I talk to them about this because I ask them what they want to do for a living, and a lot of them say, I want to be an engineer or this, and there's no creativity in this. And I have to break it down. And when you break down all these different professions, what you come to is a root word, which is creativity, which is then linked with innovation. How do you generate an idea into something more than an idea, whether it's something tangible or just something more?
I love that. That. And you don't know this, but in the course we talk about divergent versus convergent thinking.
Yes.
And whenever exactly. So
Sure.
When you're following the script, when you're fitting the mold as it's
Sure.
supposed to be, that you're thinking convergently. Like there's that right answer, and I need to get it.
Yeah.
Like what you're describing in terms of innovation is divergent thinking, which I love how you wrapped it into like every profession out there.
Yeah.
In the end,
Sure.
is about divergent thinking because it's about problem solving.
Sure. That's right. It's about critical thinking and about problem solving. And, they say mathematics is the universal language that at our base level, everybody, no matter how many different languages we speak, math is the one that we can all connect to. And if you think about even what most people would consider the most minimal of jobs, mopping a floor efficiently in a high school, there's a mathematical equation to that solution. However, there are tons of solutions to one mathematical equation. It depends on which route you want to take to get there.
Yeah.
And that's what I love so much about creativity, is that there's many different ways that you can think about how to do something. It's not which way you choose in defining the creativity. It's having that inside fire that sparks the, ooh, is this the right way, or is this a better way?
Yeah.
That to me, that is the creativity that gets me so jazzed in life and in education.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So I wanna take a slight left turn here and ask you just more a personal question. You as an artist.
Sure.
You spend a lot of time here in the studio doing all kinds of creations.
Sure.
Maybe some more utilitarian, maybe some more a little free form just for you. How does your mind approach that situation? Let's say you're free in the shop for a day. Where does your mind go in the creative process in terms of what am I going to do? What am I going to bring into the world?
So to me, my area of interest lies in other people's areas of interest. And so, and I know it sounds kind of unusual, but basically I am intrigued by asking other people questions and getting those people to ask themselves questions, because a lot of time I will experience that people don't ask those questions. Hence, when I work with somebody, oh, I'm not creative. Well, you obviously don't ask yourself a lot of questions. So to me, I kind of approach creativity in a bunch of different ways. The hardest thing that I've ever had to do is become a mother and a partner and then an artist. Because being an artist and being fully submerged in that creative mind is very difficult to do for short periods of time. Because once you get in and you start to break apart and find these avenues and travel, you can get lost very quickly. Now you end up somewhere and that's great, but it takes time to do that. And so if I were to just come in and have a whole day and not have to worry about getting my kid at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or what I'm gonna make for dinner, or that there's wet laundry sitting in, and all the stuff that I gotta do at home, or the class that I have to teach, or any of that stuff, I would come in and I would ask myself, the last time I interacted with a human being, what was that experience like? I can give you a perfect example. I had a fabulous experience that I'm going to make a piece of work about today, where I interacted with a woman who's probably in her 70s, who was not wearing a face mask, but was totally okay with me wearing one, whose son, who was probably in his 40s, walked up to me, tried to question why I was wearing a mask, because he was a healthcare professional and he said they don't work.
Exactly.
So I had that interaction today, and I think that would stimulate interesting work for me, because, that's fascinating to me. I come to buy something from someone. The person I'm buying it from is completely content with me wanting to make my choices and me not giving her grief about her choices. And we had an understanding between each other. Now, whether that was because we were both artists and that we had that understanding because of that, or it was just a mutual respect, but for some reason, the son just didn't seem that way. Now, despite the fact that I have a brother who I'm very close with, who is a medical professional, and I said that, which initially shut the nurse down. It's things like that. It's those interactions with people that generate excitement for me to want to talk about the work. Why was that response so aggressive? Why was it so assertive? What is it about me not showing the lower half? Is it directly related to the virus? Is it related to this kind of how the virus has turned political? Like, is he trying to figure me out? And asking all those questions that then I will associate with an object. And so I'm working on a body of work right now where I'm photographing masks that have been thrown away. And so I have probably 50 masks, at least 20 that I've seen in Target parking lot, and I've taken a photograph of them. I make hyper-realistic work out of materials that are uncommon for the true material it should be, in an attempt to get you to challenge your perspective. What are you looking at? For example, cardboard box made out of ceramic, or paper that is made out of ceramic, or banana peels that are made out of ceramic. And so when you step on a banana peel that's made out of clay, you don't slip. It crumbles. And then you open your foot and what the hell did I just do? I should have slipped. Why didn't I slip? Why did it crumble? What is this? What happened?
So
and that's the idea.
We experience that common object in a brand new way, maybe rethinking it.
You rethink not only the object, but hopefully to rethink other avenues as you travel down this journey of life.
Love
so that when you come to a point do you ask a question or do you go with what feels comfortable? That's what I make. So if I were in the studio by myself, that's what I do. I would probably make something about the experience that I had with that man, because it's perplexing to me.
Yeah. So you're solving a problem, just like we discussed earlier.
Yeah, solutions. Yeah.
It's a social emotional problem maybe, but
yeah.
the creative process is facilitating
yes.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that. I rather enjoy that. I try to teach and educate that way as well. Personal problems with relatives, problems with friends, environmental problems with the world, political problems with the world. I brought a bunch of high schoolers in a few years ago, and it was amazing. They had so many problems with what the government was doing to our environment, and they made an entire body of work about it. Some of the most grotesque things you've ever seen to some of these animals, but they were poignant for the conversation that they were wanting to have, because it hurt them to see these images, so they wanted to make them bigger, to make them more penetratable. Okay. So so I like that. I think that's an important.
So that actually leads me to a very beautiful kind of follow-up, and because I know that you've done work with some specific communities. So where I want to bridge to now is the role that creativity and creative processes can play in therapy, in understanding and development. Can you talk about the power of creativity that you've seen when working with some different kinds of populations?
So we've recently transitioned as part of our mission into health and wellness, because we feel that art creativity can be very therapeutic. We happen to feel that glass is a fantastic medium to be able to talk and utilize for these types of art therapy purposes, but we believe art in general. We don't like to necessarily narrow mind ourselves to just glass, but glass is a fantastic medium for conceptual narrative work because of the things that you talked about earlier, the reflective capabilities, its transparent possibilities, its fragility, capabilities. And so we started working with people who were suffering from a lot of different emotional and mental disorders, and trying to see if we could not fix their disorders, but help give them a little bit more release than what maybe an average pharmaceutical might. And so we worked in conjunction with a few different places here in Fort Worth, one of which was the Art Station, which is also a nonprofit, and they predominantly work with veterans. And then we also work with the Presbyterian Night Shelter, and we also work with some survivors of domestic abuse. And we do different programs with each one, because we feel that each program is unique to that certain type of trauma or that certain type of experiences that they've had, and we want to make sure that we facilitate the way that we allow them to be creative in a manner that is comfortable for them. And what that means is, like the veterans who have been active, a studio that has a lot of equipment that's on, that has a lot of noises that resemble popping and shooting, and it's a very visceral experience, might not be the best place for people who are potentially triggered by some of those sounds and things. So we're very mindful. But what we've noticed is that that the arts and the act of making, the act of being in a space where you're finding validity to be creative, to have a voice, to express your voice, is extremely therapeutic and extremely helpful for some of these people who are kind of stuck. It's not that they're not getting the psychological therapy that they need. It's not that they're not medicated, but they're in a rut and they're not advancing at a pace that necessarily is helpful for them. And so we have found that creativity, especially now where people are stuck at home, this act of making or wanting to learn to make or creating anything is now vital to every single human being's emotional state. Which is fascinating.
Yeah, I love
because
that.
Where was it before, and why was it not present before? Because we had all these distractions. What were those distractions? The bars, the restaurants, the eating out with friends, potentially the mindless conversations. But in that same vein, you got the culinary arts, you got the music venues, right? You got a bunch of different art expressions that people were able to go to as a release of being creative, even if they weren't necessarily making.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They were feeling connected to somebody who was using their creativity to help them feel connected.
Yeah.
And so now that you can't go out and do these things, you're stuck at home. And now you're stuck at home to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
Or to listen to it digitally, which there's a gap.
Yeah. So
There's a huge gap.
Do you think people are feeling called here within COVID for more of that?
I do. Yeah. I
engagement?
think people. Well, I think people are a little exhausted by being alone. I think that it takes a very special artist to sit in their room and make. That requires a lot of personal motivation. You have to really have a passion for wanting to do that, because the TV is right there. You have to want to say something.
Yeah.
And so, I think people are exhausted and they're wanting to get out to try these things and be creative and try new things with their hands, or start thinking about different things, new different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's important right now. And I think there's an attention, and it shouldn't just, when in a year or so or whenever COVID decides to go dormant, it shouldn't just go away.
Yeah.
This should be essentially changing a landscape.
Yeah.
Is what we're doing.
Exactly.
And hopefully and for the better good.